My name's Peter Gilmour and I'm standing for Douglas East. I'm responding to the 8 questions asked of candidates by the Isle of Man Chamber of Commerce. A brief introduction: I'm 59 and a project manager and IT professional. I'm a Manxman with 4 generations of my family born and living on the island. I have an engineering degree, an MBA in international business and a variety of professional certificates in project management, IT technologies and adult teaching. I currently work full-time for a large Isle of Man company employing several hundred people. I have around 30 years of on and off island experience, including 9 years in the Royal Air Force, British Aerospace, Department of Trade and Industry in Capita, Standard Bank of South Africa, EDS Hewlett-Packard, Maersk and Scanco. I'm standing as a candidate for the election as these very questions asked by the Chamber of Commerce are critical if we were to progress and protect our economy. I believe I'm one of the most experienced candidates to actually make a difference in these areas. So, to the questions. Question 1, how will you support business if elected with this challenge to ensure that the island does not face a recruitment crisis? What role will you take to ensure this challenge is considered in the next administration? Well, let's outline the problems. 75% of businesses on island are struggling to recruit experienced staff from anywhere. It's particularly difficult to find staff on island. Island school leavers tend not to have the right skills for the workplace. And some employers are having difficulty upskilling their workforce, either for financial reasons, motivational reasons, a lack of direction, or a lack of training availability, or any combination of those. So it's clear to me that employers on the Isle of Man have major issues with our current education system itself, and the abilities and skills of school leavers not matching the requirements for the workforce, a very obvious lack of coordination between business, government, and the education system, the availability and compatibility of specific training, and the difficulty of directing and encouraging lifelong learning. In my view, the island's recruitment crisis is also exacerbated by a lack of affordable housing, meaning it's simply too expensive for young workers to live and work here, a lack of economic diversification and the failure to develop a wider skills base, meaning that many young workers simply do not want to do the limited number of job types on offer on island currently. The expense of travelling to and from the island to work or just visit friends and relatives. Want evidence that the needs of young workers are not being met? We only need to look at the census from 2011, 2016, and I suspect this year too, that showed so far 40% of our young people under 30 have been leaving the island every year. We've had the lowest birth rate since possibly the 1950s, with just over 600 births this year, practically halved in 10 years. And young workers themselves, surveyed numerous times, continually citing the cost of housing and living, the travel costs, and the lack of diversity in types of jobs available here, yet little has been done to address these issues. To that, personally, I feel the majority of current MHKs do not understand the digital economy sufficiently, particularly its vast potential. 90% of all jobs now have some IT component. Practically everyone works in the digital economy in one form or another to varying depths, whether you're working in tourism, retail, or doing customer relationship management or advanced data science. But we're not just short of digital skills. The workforce also needs to develop soft skills, people who are creative and innovative, people that are adaptable to evolving roles and situations, people with problem-solving skills, people with analytical and project management skills. And we also need to consider the increasing impact of job automation and artificial intelligence. While many people think artificial intelligence is robots cooking in the kitchen and supercomputers answering any question they ask, the appearance of job automation and AI is far more subtle. Take, for instance, a team of 10 Know Your Customer admin staff. They will be replaced in 5 years by an off-the-shelf computer system that will do all that, dealing with databases around the world and biometric data. They'll have to change jobs. So to answer the question, how will you support businesses with this challenge for recruitment and what role would you take? If I elected, I would insist on far greater coordination between the government, business and educators to allow us to develop an economy-wide strategy to develop the skills we'd need. I'd like to see that in the form of a large multidisciplinary working group that covers all sectors of the economy. In that group, review the effectiveness of all current financial support schemes that support the job markets to ensure they are actually fit for purpose, that they adequately address training and upskilling properly, especially in areas with growth potential. I'd like to see educators demonstrating the importance of their understanding of the digital economy by considering formally making information technology a core subject in secondary schools. and I'd like to see government and businesses involved together to provide far more work experience, continued education, jobs and apprenticeships for young people, again reviewing the government grants to achieve this. Young people are the taxpayers of the future. We need to invest in them. 2. How will you support businesses that face a regulatory burden? Noting that not all businesses do. What steps will you take to ensure that the regulatory burden on a business is fair, understood and proportionate? Once again, I think this can only be achieved by business and government working far more closely together reviewing existing or proposed legislation. Consultations generally get a poor response, so I think this needs to be driven by politicians as part of the legislative process and not just assumed to be happening, particularly when we've seen examples of legislation that's not been thought through properly. 3 relates to a government that listens, a government that focuses on long-term solutions, and a government that supports innovation. How will you address these views if elected? Once again, I think I've addressed this in question 1. This is going to be done by far closer ties between government and business through active working groups and economy-wide working groups, perhaps divided into subgroups depending on the complexity of the issues at hand. This will also be about organisation, coordination and communication, something I'm good at, I think, and I would encourage. Question 4 is about COVID support, extending COVID support. Politicians will likely face some difficult choices over extended COVID support. For example, if there are 2 identical businesses and one requires financial support and the other does not, it would seem unfair to support one and not the other. For example, when one has called on its own reserves to support itself, or the managers have been far more capable of riding out the storm. In that example, I think it would be more appropriate and fair to arrange extended lending rather than grants. But some sectors, such as hospitality, will need additional support over the winter, probably aimed at an employee level. As we go through the winter, I suspect some extended support packages might need to be agreed on an individual business basis, but based on loans rather than grants. Question 5 relates to Brexit and how we can ensure we gain economic opportunities from it. Brexit has so far had negative impact for many firms. That's according to the Chamber's survey itself. Looking at the wider picture in the UK, these equate to falling exports to the EU, smaller imports from the EU, and it tends to affect smaller firms a lot more than larger firms. I think with us being tied to the UK shirt tails with regards to Brexit and its pitfalls and potential benefits, it's very important that government keep not just an eye on what is currently happening, but what's coming over the horizon as a result of Brexit. So government on the Isle of Man needs to work more closely with the UK government as events unfold, seek out every opportunity opened up by Brexit, and most importantly, communicate it, and ensure that any legislation required to take advantage of opportunities can speedily be enacted. It's early days yet, and we're still experiencing a Brexit bedding in period, I feel. So I expect the results will become clearer as the COVID pandemic eases. Questions 6 and 7 relate to renewable energy and climate change. There's currently a consultation open on climate change, and I'd rather wait till I've seen the results of that and what businesses think before answering that question. And finally, question 8, diversifying the economy. This was ranked 4th most important to businesses. I've already spoken about the recruitment crisis and how it's exacerbated by the housing crisis and the lack of diversification on the island. I think diversification of the economy should be treated as a priority, not least because we rely on only 2 or 3 sectors to produce our national income. But if we are to keep young workers here, we need to offer a far wider range of job types. If COVID's taught us anything, it's that we can employ people remotely. So a priority for me would be to set up the legal and tax structures that would enable island-based businesses and employers to both create and expand companies by employing people remotely, while offering a far wider range of jobs on island to our younger workers. If you'd like to talk to me about any of the issues, please call me on 294 100 or email me at pg@manx.net. Thank you.